What is up, guys? Ross Thomas here for the Brotographer.com, coming at you today with another video from beautiful Shabica compound. Shabica Olive Oil was generous enough to let us come out here and shoot today. Thank you, John. This place is amazing. Go check out Shabica Olive Oil. Google them. They're the best olive oil in the world, guaranteed by the Brotographer. Anyways, today I'm reviewing the Autel EVO, one of DJI's big competitors. The Autel EVO shoots 4K at 60 frames per second. It is a 1/2/3 sensor. However, they are, in terms of image quality, one of the biggest competitors to the DJI Mavic drones, and I want to show those to you today. So in the world of drones today, drone manufacturers cannot make large drones because of the competition from DJI. So in this Peak Design 5-liter sling, I've actually got everything I need to shoot with the Autel EVO. So I'm going to take the Autel EVO out of the bag, kind of set it up and give you a few more specs while I'm doing that. So as I open up the 5-liter sling, which is an amazing bag, by the way, PS is sitting on top of the travel backpack, the new 45-liter from Peak Design. I'll put links in the description there as well. I've written a detailed review on that. Check out this bag. It is absolutely amazing. And the 5-liter sling actually fits in it, so you have more room for your camera gear. So opening it up here, got the controller. So this controller is amazing. You don't have to bring your phone. It supports iOS or Android devices, but you do not have to bring your phone. The screen here on the controller actually acts as a real screen. If you bring your iPhone or your Android device, you can use that and this will display a lot of the flight data. But once again, you really don't need to if you forget it, which is awesome. Next, we've got some Polar Pro ND filters, which I highly recommend. A lightning cable. 2 batteries are also in here. And last but not least is the actual Autel EVO drone. Orange is by far my favorite color, and it's pretty cool that Autel included orange as the colorway for this drone. So I'm gonna pop in one of these batteries here, which they say can give you about 30 minutes of flight time. In the real world, with wind and all those conditions, I've found that I was able to get about 26 minutes of flight time mostly, even with some light wind, maybe up to like 10 miles an hour, typically at about 26 minutes. And it doesn't get really sketchy. Autel has this really nice gimbal cover that is really easy to put on and take off, and it protects the gimbal, which you should always do on these exposed gimbals on any drone. So one thing that I haven't mentioned to you is that it has obstacle avoidance, the Autel EVO does. Now it is on the front, back, and bottom. There is no obstacle avoidance on the side. I actually crashed one of these drones into a lake. I wanted to test out the Autel EVO, a brand new drone that I got in. It shoots 4K, 60 frames per second. I crashed the Autel EVO into the lake several weeks ago because it did not have the obstacle avoidance on the side. Now, mind you, it was 100% my fault. I know that the new DJI Mavic Pro does have obstacle avoidance on the side, but that's only in certain modes. So even they don't have obstacle avoidance in every mode on the side. So take that for what it's worth, but just be careful when you're moving side to side with any drone and fly safe. When it comes to flying, you guys are gonna see that this drone is very stable, but the biggest feature of this drone is actually the camera. No, it's not a 1-inch sensor. However, what Autel has done with the EVO is it seems like they're able to get better image quality than other 1/2/3 sensors. I did have the DJI Mavic Air before and the unique Typhoon H, and this 1/2/3 sensor with regard to dynamic range, sharpness, it takes 12 megapixel stills, but still, this thing in 4K is sharper than either one of those cameras by far. And the dynamic range here, when you use the log profile, is off the charts. It is amazing for a drone. And at the end of the day, that's really what we want. Sure, the flying experience is awesome, and I'll get to that in a minute, but the image quality coming out of this thing is fantastic. So my favorite feature, and probably Autel's biggest selling point for the EVO, is the fact that it shoots 4K at 60 frames per second. Neither foldable drone, well, not neither, all of the foldable drones from DJI do not shoot 4K at 60. They can shoot 4K at 30 frames per second. But the ability to shoot 4K at 60 frames per second opens up so many creative possibilities as a YouTuber, filmmaker, business owner, whatever you're doing, whether you're shooting adventure films or just flying your drone out with your friends. 4K at 60 frames per second is awesome. Now, DJI doesn't include that feature until you get to the Phantom 4 Pro, which is much bigger, bulkier, and more expensive than the Autel EVO. So the camera in this bad boy is absolutely amazing. Dynamic range, 4K at 60 frames per second, Ludicrous mode, which is probably my second favorite feature. They have their standard flight mode and Ludicrous mode, just like the Tesla cars. Standard is gonna get you a regular speed. You put it into Ludicrous mode and you do have to disable all of the obstacle avoidance features, but this thing screams. You're gonna get 45 miles an hour, and I've actually gotten faster when I'm flying with the wind. It is an amazing feature. That, coupled with the ability to shoot at 4K, 60 frames per second, is gonna give you some really cool shots when you're moving that fast. So I've got medium-sized hands, so as you can see, the length of the Autel EVO, I'll put it up on the screen, but it's a little bit less than the size of my hands. Unfolding it is really easy. First you unfold the top, then you unfold the bottom legs. You don't have to unfold the feet like you do on the Mavic Air that I previously had. Unfold the top and the side. One thing worth noting in opposition of the Mavic Air is that this bad boy is gonna get you 4.4 miles. Now in the real world, probably not, especially if you're flying around a city or anything like that, but the range on the Autel EVO is absolutely fantastic for a $1,000 drone. So the legs are out, let's put her down, get the controller set up, and let's put her up in the air. So with any drone, the software as opposed to the hardware is the core of the user experience. Hardware in these drones is going to be pretty similar, however the software is what really separates a good drone experience from a bad one. The Autel Explorer app is fantastic, the controller is amazing, and it's really been a pleasure to use this. To turn on this controller, we simply hold the power button for a couple seconds, turn it on. I've got the Autel EVO Explorer app up and ready to go. To turn the drone on, instead of a double tap, it's just a single click. Turn it on, you'll hear it go. Got it on, and we are ready to fly. We hit the Go Fly on the app, and it should connect to the drone. There we go. Now here you'll see we have 4K resolution at 60 frames per second. We're shooting in manual mode at a shutter speed of 1/20th. Let's bump that ISO up to 200. It's all touch screen, as you can see. We can cycle through here, our exposure, auto white balance, whether or not we want to shoot in log or vivid, or black and white, or art. I'm gonna keep it in none, it's just their basic. We have picture styles. We have a digital zoom as well that goes up to 8 times on that camera. I don't recommend using 8 times zoom though. Everything's great. We can control the gimbal pitch. We can do all that. On the actual controller, our sticks are very basic. They are very robust. We've got a pause feature on the controller to pause any automated modes we're in. Speaking of those automated modes, we've got our regular camera mode, our dynamic track mode, which we're able to track anything on the screen that we point to, our viewpoint mode, our orbit mode, orbit's pretty awesome, and our waypoint mode where we can set waypoints in the app. I'm gonna keep it in regular camera mode, and let's take this bad boy off. In order to do that, pull down and left on the sticks. It's gonna start up the rotors and press up. So as you can see, the EVO is very stable in the air. Jose is filming right now, and I would say he is less than 3 feet from the rotors, and it is extremely stable, not moving to the left or the right. GPS in this is amazing, and it is extremely stable. All right, so let's bring it up and try and get some sunset shots. So one of the most amazing features, like I talked about before, is Ludicrous mode on the Autel EVO. In order to get into Ludicrous mode, tap into the settings, your flight control, hit Ludicrous mode. You're gonna have to disable all your obstacle avoidance, but I promise you it is worth it. All right, so I highly recommend the Autel EVO. I ended up selling my Mavic Air because the camera on this thing, as you can see in the clips that I've shown, is so fantastic. The fact that they just added Ludicrous mode as well is wonderful. I love shooting in Ludicrous mode. Just remember to not fly too low because the drone is angled so far forward to get at that speed, 45 miles per hour. It has a hard time climbing at the same time. You need to slow down before you start to climb. So word of caution. Some pros and cons. Pros, the controller is the best controller I've ever used. It's comfortable, easy to use, easy to connect to the actual drone itself. The firmware, software is amazing on it. It's easy to update. We did that before we shot this review. If you forget your phone, I did not show you guys, but you can actually use the controller as your screen. The screen pops up instead of having your flight data here. Software is also, in my opinion, superior to that of DJI's Mavic drones. Amazing, love it, easy to use, touchscreen on your phone is awesome, settings are really intuitive, that's great. As far as the drone itself, it's very responsive, very easy to fly if you're a novice flyer, such as myself. The camera on it is by far the best drone camera I've ever used. I still haven't used a drone camera that has a 1-inch sensor in terms of dynamic range, but the dynamic range that Autel is able to pull out of this little tiny 1/2 inch sensor is wonderful. Tracking on this is something that I tested out a little bit, however, didn't get the opportunity to test it in depth. In my initial testing, tracking was great on objects. You just circle the object on the screen and it tracks them really well. You can't do any really erratic movements or go behind objects. It's not going to track you that well in those situations, but it is pretty good. Another pro of the Autel EVO here is the flight time. While they say that it's going to be 30 minutes, I typically get about 26, but that is more than enough on a drone. It was getting a little bit windy up there today, and I still got a full charge out of it, full 26 minutes. You're really gonna have to try to find things to shoot in almost half an hour with your drone, unless you're just in some epic location. But 26 minutes is great flight time, and that's definitely another pro. I can't think of many cons with the Autel EVO. One thing that I hope they do update in the future is these buttons on the bottom of the controller here. There's an A and a B button. They do allow you to use one of the buttons to review your footage and pictures while you're still flying. However, I wish you were able to customize these buttons a little bit more and even customize the buttons on the front of the screen. So that's one con. I also don't like how the antennas don't click into place and stay there. They do have the ability to move around on the controller as well. I also do wish that the thumbsticks did untwist just like DJI does. Those are small cons, and inside my Peak Design 5-liter sling is totally fine. I've never had any problems with it, and I just don't have any problems with it, but it would be a nice convenience if those things were done. Autel has shown the ability to update the drone with firmware very well. Like I said, they just added Ludicrous mode, handled some gimbal issues that were in previous firmware modes, which leads me to another one of the huge pros of Autel as a company itself, and that is their United States-based customer support. 7 days a week you can call them if you have anything wrong. They are not a company based out of another country. The United States-based support is great. They got back to me on the issue where I actually crashed the drone. I tried to salvage it. They put me through a slew of tests, had me send it in, but the ability to call someone 9 to 5 was great. So kudos to Autel for including United States-based customer support. It is a huge issue when it comes to electronics. That's the customer support. So you're gonna ask yourself, should I buy this or something like the Mavic Pro 2? Well, it all depends on what you want. The Mavic Pro 2 is going to give you that optical zoom in the same size sensor. However, you're going to probably get better dynamic range out of the Autel EVO. Also, you're going to get 4K at 60 frames per second, and for me that's a huge deal. No, I don't use it all the time. Yes, 4K at 24 frames per second is still fantastic, but just having that creative ability to shoot at 60 frames per second is a huge deal to me, and I would definitely take that over to the zoom. The Autel EVO is also $999 in its starting package, which is a very competitive price. They don't have a Fly More package like DJI does, but their batteries are fairly inexpensive and they do last a long time. I do recommend picking up at least one extra battery if you're gonna be flying a drone. So should you buy the Autel EVO? Absolutely yes. I sold my Mavic Air, and while that was smaller and I did have the ability to pack in more camera gear in my kit when carrying that drone, the camera on this bad boy is wonderful. Absolutely go buy it. Check out the links in the description below if you're interested. Check out our behind the scenes footage and pictures over on the Brotographer on Instagram. Make sure that you follow me there. I'm Ross Thomas for thebrotographer.com. Thank you so much for watching. I love this drone, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.